on this Saturday morning awakening experience. I am so excited. I want to acknowledge you out there on YouTube. I want you to like this. I want you to share this because this message is so important. And the way it came, I want to explain how I received this, which was amazing in itself. So there was a verse that I learned early in my walk. I may have been in my 20s at the time. And when I read this verse, for some reason, it stayed with me throughout my entire life. It's one verse. And it may not seem like it's significant, but for me, it was everything. And it was in Proverbs 4:18. It said, "The path of the just is like the shining sun that shines brighter and brighter unto the perfect day." So it was letting me know my path, the longer I walk, the longer I live, it says my path is going to get brighter and brighter until the perfect day. And so when is that perfect day? When is it? You think that perfect day is when you leave this physical body and you go to heaven? No. You're going to realize that perfect day when it happens. And you will know it. And that day has already come and gone for me. And as a matter of fact, every day becomes a perfect day. Every single day is a perfect day. So I want to tell you something. I was reading this book. It wasn't even a religious book. It wasn't even a spiritual book. It was a fiction novel, right? So this character, he was laying in this hospital bed. He was paralyzed from the waist down. And he did something that most of us never think to do. He memorized the path of the sun. And what I mean by that, he noticed how the light entered the room at dawn. He noticed how the first light of the sun came into the room. He noticed how the sun moved across the floor by mid-morning, how it climbed the wall at noon and slowly withdrew toward evening. He didn't have nothing else to do. And so he paid attention to the light that was coming into his window. And this is what he said. "I know the path of this," what I just described. He said, "because I watch it happen every single morning. I've learned the schedule of the light. 7:30 means the sun is on my feet. It's the only time of day anything touches my feet, and I can see it happening even if I can't feel it." So he watched that every day as he lay in that hospital bed paralyzed. He learned the schedule of the light. Now, as soon as my eyes read those 4 words, when he said the schedule of the light, I put the book down. I couldn't even finish reading. It was something about those 4 words that just grabbed me. What do you mean, schedule of the light? And I thought about the words. Why did I react to those words so suddenly and so strongly? Just reading a regular book. Why did those words jump out? Because it was supposed to. It was supposed to. I was supposed to get something from those 4 words. Simple as that. So after that, I spent time reflecting, thinking, meditating, and the words became a teaching. Those 4 words became a message. Those 4 words became alive, and they became real. And I was like, my God, this is amazing. This is what I'm talking about when I say, when you are open, you don't know when the Spirit's going to drop something down into you. You think you have to be reading the Bible for that to happen. You for what I got. It was not like that. A regular book. I had no idea this was going to happen. I was in awe, y'all. I was just in awe because of all the words that kept coming. And then I had to stop and I just started writing things down. As thoughts came to me, and I'm going to share those thoughts with you, I started writing them down. You know, I realized that I had done the same thing that that man had done laying in that hospital. I wasn't in a hospital bed, but from a chair in front of my window. In front of my window, just looking out. It's like, I know what he's talking about. There is a certain ambiance that happens in my room at a certain time of day. It's like the sun shines in my room a certain time of day, and I want to be in that room at that time of day because it just lights it up in a way that it don't light it up at 5 o'clock. It don't light it up like that at 7 o'clock. But at 3 and 4, 5, it lights up the room, and it's just like this feeling that I have. That's what he was talking about. And I'm like, that's what he's talking about, the schedule of the light. At what time the light appears and what it does when it appears. So I know where the sun is going to be at 9 o'clock a.m. I know how it falls against my desk in my office at 2 p.m. Where it is outside my kitchen window. At every season, I always know where the sun is going to be at a particular time. Because you know why? Because the sun is consistent. It never changes its course. So, the light has a schedule, y'all. Did you know that, Mike? Did you know the light has a schedule? So that's the title of my message. This light has a schedule, and we are a part of it. We are a part of the schedule of the light. And I want to start with Genesis. You always have to start at the very beginning, because at the very beginning, the tone was set. If we want to talk about the light, you have to go to Genesis 1. And I'm going to be reading verses 3 through 5 first. And then I'm going to jump down to 14 through 18. So I'm going to read from the NLT. It says, "Then God said, 'Let there be light.' And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And then he separated the light from the darkness. So God called the light day, and the darkness night. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the first day." Now, what I want you to understand about this, the light that he's talking about there had nothing to do with the sun, the moon, the stars, had nothing to do with it. This is a light that came before anything was created. It's the origin. It's the beginning. It's the light that has to be present before anything can be birthed. And every one of us has that light within us. Yes. That's why we talk about the I am. That's the I am that exists before anything. Let there be light. Now let's jump down to 14 through 18. So now that this original light is there, things start happening. But I'm going to jump down to the fourth day, 14. God said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, the days, and the years. Let these lights in the sky shine down on the earth." And that is what happened. And so God made two great lights. Say that, y'all. Two great lights. The larger one to govern the day, and the smaller one to govern the night. And he also made the stars. Now the New King James says, two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And he told you what they were for. They were for signs, they were for seasons. Right? So the first thing that I thought about, the first thought I had was this. The light that appears, that sun, it does not rush. The sun rises when it rises, doesn't it? It moves at its own pace. The sun does not hurry because somebody is waiting. Like I'm sitting there waiting for the sun to come up. It's not going to rush because I'm waiting for it, right? It does not linger or hold off because somebody is not ready. Oh, I overslept. I missed the sunrise. It's not going to wait for you. The sun is going to do what it's set to do, regardless of whether you're waiting or you're lingering or whatever. It's going to follow its own schedule. And it's going to rule the way it's supposed to rule. So that made me think of it. Now, this is my first principle. The sun does not revolve around us. We revolve around the sun. See, some of us think the world just revolves around us. Me, I. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to my problem. Do something about this. See, the world revolves around you. No, you're out of line, you're out of order, and you're out of position. Because you have to change your position, get into the rhythm, get into the schedule of the light, and you revolve around the sun. See, the light is faithful. It has its own rhythm, and we are made of that same stuff. We are lit from within from that same light. When he said, let there be light, that's what lit us. That's what got us started. And it's still there. It has never left. So what would change? I got a question for you. What would change if you began to trust the schedule of light? Not as something you must obey, but something that you can align with. What if you could align with the schedule of light? I'm going to get into this more deep. So then my second thought was this character as he was lying in his the hospital bed. That hospital bed was a threshold. It was something that he had to cross over in order for him to start paying attention to the schedule of the light that was in his room. If he had not been paralyzed, if he had not been still, he would never have noticed that. And so the hospital bed is a threshold. He couldn't move, but that immobility became the condition for deep observation. And that's why you hear me talk about meditation a lot. Being still, not moving. And sometimes we are stripped of movement so we can finally see something. Sometimes God has to sit us down, not to be cruel, but because we've been moving too fast. We're so frantic, we do things so randomly or just by habit that we never notice where the light falls. We never pay attention to where the light falls in our life. So the hospital bed is not always a punishment, deep diggers. It's a vantage point. It's a forced stillness that reveals what motion and your constant activity hides from you. You can't see it, you can't notice it because you're always moving. So here's the second question. Where in your life have you been forced to be still? And in that stillness, did you finally notice something that you had never noticed before? This is what you got to think about. What am I missing out when I don't sit still? What is always passing before me, but I don't have the time to see or take notice because I'm too busy? The schedule of light is a map of God's presence. The sun, this is one thing I realized. So, the movement of the earth around the sun. Everybody know that, right? But at the same time that the earth is rotating, orbiting the sun, at the same time the moon is orbiting the earth. So you got the moon around the earth, you got the earth around the sun, and they are constantly in movement. Remember he talked about the lesser light? That's the moon, right? Did you notice the moon have phases? Knowing where the light is going to be at any given moment, it's not just information. See, y'all think, okay, yeah, the sun is up there, so yeah, that's nice, you know. But it isn't something that you're supposed to align yourself to, whether you believe it or not. You know where you are because you know where the light is. And if you know the light schedule, you can never truly be lost. See, the ancients knew this. They studied the sky. They tracked the sun, the moon, the stars. And it wasn't just for navigation alone, it was for alignment. They knew there was something that was a connection, and it affected us. What do we always say? As above, so below. And they knew that if they lost their way, they knew it. If they ever lost their way, they can always return to the schedule of life. Did y'all know that the moon has a schedule? Every month. Did y'all know that? Every month the moon has a schedule. So here's the schedule for the moon in June 2026. The moon is divided into 8 phases. You notice that. You notice how it starts off as a little crescent moon, and then as the days increase, the light increases. And then you got, okay, here's June 26th, the phase days. The last quarter moon was June the 8th. That was on schedule. It happened. They know this is going to happen because of the schedule of the light. The new moon is on June 14th. That's when it happened. It was a new moon on that day, like clockwork. The first quarter moon was June the 21st. Now that was also the summer solstice, which meant that was the longest day of the year. That was the longest time the light was in the sky. And then now from that day, the light is going to start decreasing again. See, it's a schedule to the light. And the full moon, today is the 27th, the full moon is going to be on June the 29th. It ain't even came yet. But we know this. Why? Because of the schedule of the light. And if you pay attention to that, it will teach you something. So you don't need to be in a hospital bed to learn this. All you need to do is sit still long enough to notice when the light arrives. Pay attention to the light. Or have you been moving too fast to notice? So then this is a thought I had thought for. I said, wow, if that is true outside of me, what is true inside of me? So that means there's an outer light that I can witness with my physical eyes, but then there's also an inner light that I can witness with my spirit and my soul. Both have schedules. Just like the outer lights have schedules, your inner light has a schedule. And that's what I want you to remember today. Your inner light does the same thing that the outer lights do, but we don't pay attention. We don't understand that. Let's go to Psalms 46. The schedule of life. Psalms 46, 1 through 3. It says this: God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we would not fear when earthquakes come, when the mountains crumble into the sea. It says, let the oceans roar and foam. Let the mountains tremble as the waters surge. And let's go down to 6. It said, the nations are in chaos and their kingdoms crumble. God's voice thunders and the earth melts. And then 10, jump down to 10. And this is where he says, I love how he started off with all of the chaos that was going on. You see how that chapter led off with all of these things crumbling around you, chaos and earthquakes and mountains and all of this. But then he says, in the midst of all of that, be still. And know that I am God. I will be honored by every nation. I will be honored throughout the world. In the midst of your chaos, be still. I love that. And so what does this have to do with the inner light? Because the inner light rises in your stillness. You had no idea, but the more you become still, the more your inner light rises, just like the sun. Out of the darkness into the light. And it does the same thing. You felt this. You just didn't know what was going on. You have felt this time when your mind is the sharpest, when your heart is more open, when your knowing is most clear. See, you feel these things in your body. I have waken up some days and I have so much joy in me. I don't even know where it came from or why. It's just there. See, that's that morning light. That's that morning dawn rising up in me. See, I know the schedule of the light now. So I'm like, oh, the light is rising. What do you do in them moments? What do you do in the moments? Do you let it pass? The light has come. It said, rise, shine. So I want you to know something about that word, be still. Be still. The Hebrew word is rafah. And what it means is to let drop, to abandon, to relax, to forsake, to let go, to refrain from, to let alone, to be quiet. That's what be still means in the Hebrew. And then it gave a graphic. It said it's the idea of someone holding onto a tightrope. You're just holding onto this rope. You're just hanging on. Just with all your might, just holding. And Rafah is saying, let it drop. Let the rope drop. Just let it go. Let go of the rope that you've been holding to. Trying to hold yourself together. Trying to hold things together. You say, let it go. And I remember I shared the story years ago of this mountain climber. And he was climbing this mountain. And he got caught in a blizzard, right? And the blizzard was in danger. The conditions were so dangerous, he didn't think he was going to make it. And so he slipped. And his rope caught him and kept him from crashing down on the rocks. And he held on to that rope. And he called out to God. He said, God, please help me. Don't let me die on this mountain alone in this blizzard. And he heard this still small voice say, let go of the rope. Let go of the rope. This is my lifeline. If I let this go, I'm going to fall to my death. Again, the voice said, let go of the rope. And he wouldn't do it. And the next morning at light, when they found him, he was still holding to that rope, froze to death, and he was this high from the ground. All he had to do was let go of the rope. That's what be still would do for you. If you just trust him, when you think it can't be any safety net for you, he said, you let go and I'll do the rest. That's what he's telling us. So if he had just understood the schedule of the light, when that still small voice comes, that's the light speaking to you. It's telling you what you need to do. So let the rope go and listen to the voice. The same thing goes for you that man learned in that hospital room. I want you to learn the schedule of your own light. I want you to start being aware of what's going on inside of you. And you're going to now be more aware of when the times of light come. Your rhythm, your seasons, your times of clarity, your times of rest. You can move through life without being controlled by anything outside of you. Yes. But you'll be controlled by the schedule of your own inner life. That's real. That's an amazing thing to have. Aligning with God, aligning with your true self, and being sovereign within this world. There is a disorder that they call it seasonal affective disorder. And it's SAD, S-A-D, seasonal affective disorder. So they refer to this as seasonal depression. And it's a mood disorder. This is a definition of it, I looked it up. It is a mood disorder in which people who typically have normal mental health throughout most of the year exhibit depressive symptoms at the same time each year. It's usually in the winter time, when the light gets dimmer, when the days get shorter. People go through this seasonal depression. And that's what causes it, the decrease in the light. Now, I'm here to tell you that that's what the world calls it. See, they just made up something so they could treat you with medicine. Now it's a disorder. It is not a disorder. There are certain people that are very sensitive to the energies of what's going on above us. And so when that light becomes dim in the wintertime, they feel it more so than the rest of us. All of us don't feel it like they do. And so when they feel it, they go into a depressed state, not understanding that this is a cycle of the light. And if they understood it, they know that in 6 months, it's going to be the summer solstice, where the light is going to be in the sky longer and longer and longer. So what do you do in those dark times? You rest. Because that's what it was meant for. It was to give your soul and your spirit rest during that time of the year, in preparation for the spring when everything is going to bloom again. That's what's going on. So don't let anybody tell you you have a seasonal depression, because that is not true. That is not true. I'm going to look at the last verse, Genesis 41. I want you to see this. Genesis 41. Yeah, I'm almost done. And we're going to look at 25 through 36. And this is Joseph's story. Remember Joseph's story, he was sold into slavery by his brothers. He was thrown into prison because he was falsely accused. And while he was in prison, there were some people that had some dreams. And Joseph was able to interpret those dreams. And every time he interpreted those dreams, those things that he said was going to happen, they actually happened. Well, there came a time when Pharaoh had a dream. And he didn't understand what the dream meant. And one of the guys remembered Joseph, who was in prison. He said, I remember this guy. And he interpreted our dreams, and everything that he said was going to happen came true. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph. And Pharaoh told Joseph what the dream was about. It was about 7 fat cows were grazing, and then there were 7 skinny cows were grazing. And then all of a sudden, the skinny cows ate up the fat cow. And then another dream, he said it was this big bushel of stalk, wheat stalks, good for food and grain. And then there were 7 very frail, non-nutritional stalks. And those frail, non-nutritional stalks came and ate up the strong stalks. So Pharaoh couldn't even imagine what this dream meant. So in verse 41, Joseph said, both of Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God is telling Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. The 7 healthy cows and the 7 healthy heads of grain both represent 7 years of prosperity. The 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up later and the 7 7 thin heads of grain withered by the east wind represent 7 years of famine. This will happen just as I have described it, for God has revealed to Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. So he said the next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity throughout the entire land of Egypt. But afterward, there will be 7 years of famine so great that all the prosperity will be forgotten in Egypt. Famine will destroy the land. And this famine will be so severe that even the memory of the good years will be erased. Now that's some kind of famine, isn't it? And he said, as for having similar dreams, it means that these events have been decreed by God, and he will soon make it happen. Therefore, Pharaoh should find an intelligent and wise man and put him in charge of the entire land of Egypt. And you know who that wise man was? Joseph himself. And you know what he did? He said, have them gather all the food produced in the good years that are just ahead and bring it to Pharaoh's storehouse. Store it away and guard it so there will be food in the cities. That way, there will be enough to eat when the 7 years of famine come to the land of Egypt. Otherwise, the famine will destroy the land. Now, why did I read that? Why do you think that was appropriate in what I said? This is what you do in those months when the light is dim. When you have your good time, you store it up. You store it up in your heart. You store it up in your mind. You keep it so you will always have food even when the light is not shining anymore. You go into the storehouse and you're able to feed not only yourself, but everyone around you. Because you kept the food. You stored it up in times of plenty. So when there was times of emptiness, when the winter kills all the crops and the trees die, and you'll still have food. That's what you do, what they call in sad season. You store up. Amen? So I'm getting ready to close with this. I want you to know these two great lights, one that rules the day, the other that rules the night, is the schedule of the light. And we spend so much of our time trying to create order. We spend so much time trying to do that, yet perhaps the deeper invitation is to notice the order that is already there. All you have to do is just get in line with it, get in rhythm with it, understand it. So think about this. The sunrise doesn't compare itself to the sunset, does it? The afternoon doesn't compete with the morning. Each has its own place. Each has its own rhythm. And each arrives on schedule. Why then do we spend so much of our lives comparing our season to somebody else's season? This is your season. This is your time. This is your rhythm. This is your cycle. It's yours. You don't compare what's going on in your season with what is going on in someone else's time. So I'm going to close with this. Deep diggers, remember the sun. The sun never rises and says, I wish I were the moon. The moon never says, I should be shining bright like the sun in the noonday. The oak tree doesn't compare itself to the rose. And the valley doesn't compare itself to the mountain. Yet we do it constantly, comparing ourselves to other people. So my closing question is this. If the light has a schedule and you are made of light, What would it mean to finally learn your schedule? Learn your schedule. Pay attention to those light moments. And remember, be the treasure that you have always been seeking. I already am. I already know. I already see. And I already